Could everyone stand, and will be led opening prayer by Alderwoman Gould.
Almighty God, we ask for your blessing upon the members of this council as we assemble here in this chamber to conduct the ongoing business of our city. With your guidance, we will strive to ensure that all our decisions are for the common good, and your inspiration will instill respect, compassion, and thoughtfulness in all our deliberations. Give us the strength and wisdom to lead by example as the people's representatives, and that peace and harmony will mark all our proceedings and keep us faithful to the trust placed in us by the citizens of your community. Amen.
Alderman Delucia, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I need to entertain a motion, please, for the adoption of the minutes of June 10th and 17th. Pro Tem Nash, Alderwoman Gould. Is there discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Motion carries 7-0.
Public hearing number 1, relative to participation in the cost-sharing program with the City of Norwich to construct concrete sidewalks.
Thank you. I declare the public hearing open and invite anyone who'd like to speak on this matter to address the council. You have 3 minutes. Please be sure to state your name and address. Is anyone here to speak on the sidewalk program? Again, anyone wish to address this on the sidewalk program for this year? Again, third time, anyone wishing to address this on the sidewalk program? Seeing none, I declare the hearing closed. Thank you.
Petitions and communication. Number 1, letter of resignation of Arthur Sharon from the Commission on the City Plan.
Motion, please, to receive communication. Alderwoman Gould, second by Pro Tem Nash. Is there discussion? Alderwoman Gould.
I'd just like to publicly state that I'm sorry that Mr. Sharon is resigning from the Commission on the City Plan. I understand his reasoning, and I want to thank him for all the hard work that he has dedicated, that he's put in, and the dedication he's had to our city. He certainly will be missed on that commission.
Thank you. Is there further discussion? Yes, Alderman Delucia.
I would just lend my words of thanks to what Alderwoman Gould has said. Arthur has done a wonderful job on the Commission on the City Plan, and I also appreciate his dedication and the time he's in service to the city.
Thank you. I would add briefly that I've known him for a number of decades, and not only his service here on the CCP, but he previously served on the Board of Education for a number of terms as well. He has certainly served our city and enriched our community very much. Is there further comment? Seeing none, all those in favor? It's unanimous.
Number 2, letter of resignation from James Maloney from the Board of Education.
A motion, please, to accept. Alderwoman Gould, second by Pro Tem Nash. Is there discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Unanimous vote is 7-0.
City Manager's report.
Thank you. This is the City Manager's report for July 1st, 2019. I attended the monthly KERMA meetings of the Investment Committee and Board of Directors and the Southeastern Council of Governments and Southeastern Area Transit meetings. The Mayor and I attended a meeting at the Montville Town Hall where Lieutenant Governor Susan Bicewicz spoke with local town leaders about state and local issues. The Norwich Downtown Preservation and Development Conference was held on June 19th at the Warregan Ballroom. Representatives from Connecticut Main Street Center and the State Historic Preservation Office spoke on the use of historic preservation grants and tax credits. Patrick McMahon, CEO of the Connecticut Main Street Center, pointed out that the Warrigan is an example of successful redevelopment, which was restored with the help of historic preservation grants and tax credits. Developers, city, and local officials also toured the downtown and saw a number of new businesses, including the former Majestic Rose Dinner Theater, which will be converted into a 31-room boutique hotel. I participated in an informative webinar titled Establishing an Effective Social Media Policy for Your Jurisdiction. It was provided by the International City Managers Association. Tax bills were mailed on June 28th and are now due. The city has again partnered with People's United Bank Norwich locations to accept current real estate, personal property, and motor vehicle tax bills during the month of July, in addition to mail or in-person payments at City Hall. A press release has been sent to the local media and posted on the city's website with additional information. The 2019 neighborhood assistant applications have been delivered and received by the Connecticut Department of Revenue Services prior to the July 1st deadline. Global Cities/NCDC held the second Polish Festival on Franklin Street on June 23rd. I think it will surely become an annual celebration based on the attendance of over 1,600. The Norwich Events Organization honored Sheila Hayes and Edward and Mary Lord Foundation as this year's recipients of the Ron Aliano Service Awards at a gala held on June 26. Congratulations to them and to the Norwich Events Organization for organizing the event. Proceeds raised at the event will go towards the Norwich Harbor Fireworks event that will be held on Wednesday, July 3rd from 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. Thank you to the Norwich Events Organization for their commitment in keeping with this Norwich tradition. Thank you to the Rose Arts Festival Committee, Norwich Police, Norwich Public Works, Norwich Fire Department, Norwich Public Utilities, sponsors and volunteers for the third Rose Arts Festival celebration that was held at Chelsea Parade in downtown Norwich on June 29th. The event continues to grow and provide entertainment and activities for all ages. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Is there questions for the city manager? Pro Tem Nash.
I just have two questions, actually. One's a statement, one's a question. How are we with the fire truck bond? I mean, the fire truck analysis, where are we at? with that?
We have our next meeting with the chiefs is on July 17th. We'll getting to the real heart of the matter at that point.
Okay, thank you. And the other, like, just to comment on the Polish Festival and the Rose Arts. I work at the Coast Guard Academy, and I constantly pitch Norwich to the people I work with over there, and several of them attended both the Polish Festival and the Rose Arts, and were ecstatic that Norwich has these festivals, and they're like, this is awesome, and they want me to keep them advised. So we are getting people to come to our city, recognize that we have great events here, and they both, both events were attended by several members of the where I work, and all they do this, I just talked to them today, they were still talking about the Rose Arts. So we're going there, we're in the right direction. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there further questions of the city manager? I would only add for public listening on TV and those here, next Wednesday is the first Rock the Docks on July 10th. It opens up with Milena. They normally close the 6-week concert, but they're starting it this year, and I'd certainly encourage everyone to participate. So, thank you. No further questions. Thank you, John.
You're welcome.
Citizen comment on resolutions.
I declare a citizen comment on resolutions. If there's anyone like to address us with any of the resolutions on the agenda, please do so and join us at the microphone. Anyone like to address us under citizen comment? Third time, anyone like to address us under citizen comment? Seeing none, I declare it closed. Thank you.
Resolution number 1, relative to approve the Community Development Block Grant Allocation Program Year 2019.
Entertain a motion, please, to bring Resolution 1 to the floor. Pro Tem Nash, is there a second? Alderwoman Gould. Is there discussion? Pro Tem Nash?
I'd like to make an amendment to the line items. I'd like to go down to where it says Norwich Rec Taffel Basketball Courts. I'd like to reduce that $45,000 and replace that into the DPW Greenville Playground, and I would be changing that amount to $121,400.
Thank you. Is there a second? Alderman Gould, is there discussion? Yes, Alderman DeLucia.
So we got a lengthy email about the veracity of doing the entire project in Taffville. I'm wondering why we're making this change on this action at this point.
Thank you. Our director is here, Kathy Crease. I will give a partial answer. Has been ongoing discussion for a number of months about the lack of parking in Taffville. And the question comes up or comes to mind, before we spend federal dollars and you just renovate 2 basketball courts, that one in particular is right next to the limited parking at that fire station. The question is being asked now whether or not we should answer that question. Are we going to provide some additional parking at the Taffville Firehouse or not? Currently, the firemen use the roads, sometimes the school property on response. There are businesses in that corridor as well that are impacted at that point in time. And so discussions have been ongoing about, is there a greater need for more parking down there? I personally believe there is, but I perhaps let the director take it from there.
I was broached with the question of if we needed to make additional parking there, does it make sense to do the basketball court? And the truth of it is, if you're going to be tearing it up to do a parking area in 2 to 3, 4, 5 years, then it doesn't make sense to put the money into the basketball courts. That's really a council decision as to what you think you're going to be doing with that property. The only thing I can do is advise you as to where you can move the money to. And so my advice was to move it to Greenville if you were going to take money away from it. But it's really a council decision to figure out whether you think you're going to have, put additional parking there or not. If you're not, then the basketball courts make sense. If you are, then it doesn't make sense. That's about all I can.
You have the floor, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
So it's clearly laid out in an email that we got from Mrs. Gomes, the director of our social services, including our rec department, and where she says that if the consensus is that a parking lot be built on the second court, which you're right, we have had several conversations about that, and she puts in the qualifier and the funds that have been secured to do this, which I do not believe that they have been, all right, then she says clearly we would not develop the second court and the funds would be recaptured by CDBG. However, she also says that she can move the second court either nearer to the playscape area of the field, the former Taffville Little League, which is behind the firehouse, or butted up right into the short end of the first court, because my issue is where she starts off, the courts are currently, and I'm quoting her email, the courts are currently heavily used by 267 children at Waquanic School, 170 children at Sacred Heart School. Older youth and adults in the area use the courts. They are in tough shape, I'm paraphrasing, but she concludes with these courts have high daily usage and high usage on the weekends. So I believe that she has put forward a compromise to say they really need the 2 courts there. The money, the $90,000 should be spent on those courts, and yet they can still accommodate the parking issue that we have at the firehouse. So I don't see where this makes sense to defund this or partially defund this when the need is there and the accommodation of the parking issue that you've raised, Mr. Mayor, is addressed.
Is that a question, or?
No,
Okay.
that's a statement. I yield the floor.
Okay, thank you. It's my understanding that when we allocate funds through this program, the funds must be used in the year that it was allocated. And if we're in a position where we knowingly may not use those funds, but we allocated them anyway, we kind of run afoul of the intent of the program. Several years ago, there were recaptured funds that were almost lost. And only through the hard work of our current director, we didn't lose those several $100,000 that had been recaptured in prior years and not allocated. And she expressed a concern that it was much stronger and correct to allocate funds tonight for their intended use and not leave them up to maybes and possible use. It places the program at risk to some degree, and we don't want to be in that position. You're correct, the kind of a middle of the road that the director pointed out. It's just that we really don't do that with federal dollars, middle of the road. We define a purpose, a use, and we are supposed to use those funds in that calendar year for that said purpose. Holding them for this use and maybe not going to use them, they don't look too kindly on that for any need or any area in the city. And we're just putting this out for discussion now because this is the time to have the discussion. If we just allocate it, build the 2 new courts, repair them, and then we decide, well, we do need to add parking. If we had to tear that repaired court out, we have to pay that back. And who else knows what else follows that? But it's for discussion. Thank you. Alderman Browning.
It's a basketball court. It's not particularly complex to do. I'm not supporting this amendment because if we're going to take that $45,000 and not spend it on one of the 2 courts, I'd rather see it immediately spent on building a new court as adjacent to the present one. And the thing is, if we don't do it now, I can guarantee you that parking lot will get done for the volunteer fire department. But the people who use that court don't tend to have a lot of political pull, so it will just sit and will probably wait. And I don't think that that's in the best interest of the city.
Thank you. Pro Tem Nash.
Yeah, I'll give you my thought process on it. It's a little different than the mayor's. I've been sitting on the council for a while and listening to Taftville talk about their parking issue, their parking issue, their parking issue. The one of the courts is not a basketball court, it's a previous tennis court. So the one basketball court does get used and is in definite need of repair. It's got cracks and divots and kids could get hurt in there. As far as moving the basketball courts, I have no problem. I agree that they should have 2 basketball courts over there. However, moving the second court to another location could run into numerous issues as ledge, drainage, etc. And then putting it down into the Taftville Park would be another issue because, again, we don't know what drainage is over there, we don't know what ledge is over there, and then we have to put lighting in there, which is going to exceed the $45,000. I agree that that area does need a basketball court. I disagree that that area does not have a lot of political clout because it's a very important area of our city, and I take great pride in anything I can provide Taftville. But the parking issue over there is dire. There's already been accidents out there with Taftville vehicles parked on the road, with cars crashing into them while men are and women are on fire calls. So this is not something that we're taking away from somebody. We're giving them another basketball court with the possibility of giving them another one in the near future. Possibly next year they can apply for another grant through this fund. So this is not something we're taking away. But I also believe that transferring the money over to the Greenville Playground is also of paramount. That's another area of our city that's extremely important, that has limited access for the youth of that community to go to and be safe. The playground up at this area that we're talking about is dangerous for kids. It's got rough edges. It's got sharp parts of it where children can get injured. And the worst part is we as a city know this. And if we don't do something about it, we leave ourselves open for liability here. They're getting a basketball court. Taftville's going to get a parking spot. I don't know how elaborate the parking will be, but it'll be parking to get them off the road so that when the men and women of the Taft Fire Department are fighting fires, they at least know they're going to come back to a car that hasn't been smashed into. So that's my thing. I'm not opposed to 2 basketball courts in Taftville. I think that it would be beneficial, but at this point, we can get them one really nice basketball court, get Taftville the parking, and hopefully move in the future to get another basketball court down there. But right now, that one court that we're talking about making a basketball court is not being used. It's a former tennis court, and if you've been over there to look at it, you're not dribbling a basketball over there. It's not happening. So that's my train of thought, and that's why I made the amendment. I hope you'll support it, but if not, I understand where you stand. But it's not an unwise decision. It's economics.
Is there further comment? Yes, Alderman Burnham?
Thank you, Mayor. As I recall in the budget process, about $100,000 is needed for a feasibility study for this parking lot. Has that been secured?
I'm sorry, I don't have the answer to that question, and I don't know where that figure comes from.
Oh, that was at our budget hearings.
Oh, perhaps our Public Works Director? He is
I mean,
here.
State bond was not
Do-
funded.
oh, the state bond, oh, it was mentioned that it was going to come to state, asking for the funding for that feasibility study through bonding, so, and that hasn't been secured, correct?
Not to my knowledge, no.
When is it expected to break ground on this parking lot?
That has not been determined, the size, the scope. The issue is, if you repair both courts, you've taken away available land, and now we're into the situation of having spent federal dollars that has to be repaid if we decide that's where it has to go. We're just trying to be concerned and cover all the bases. I should point out, this playground is where the old school was. It's not the one on Central Avenue. It's the one at the end of Howard Road. And the playground equipment there, is, Pro Tem Nash said, is in very bad condition. That's what the $76,000 and change was there for to replace. But they actually asked for, I think, $135,000. This will get them almost to the level they needed to do the complete job. And again, this was recommended to me by the director. And it's up to us, the 7 of us, to make the call. We're just trying to balance all the needs in all the areas. And again, ask the difficult question now before we maybe make a mistake that comes back to haunt us financially in a couple of years. You know where the Taftville Station is. Land is very limited in short supply down there. We need to use available land wisely. That's all. But thank you. I hope I didn't go on too long.
No, that's why we're here. Alderman Nash, has this been through the, as the chair, has this been through public safety, this parking lot thing?
Yes, we've discussed it numerous.
This council term?
Yes, ma'am.
And so I spoke with the director, and she did confirm that they could move the court to accommodate everybody and meet all needs. We wouldn't have to necessarily tear it up, but we could accommodate the court. There's been a lot of growth. There's a lot of kids that use it, and I don't see sacrificing the funding for this that's been through the vetted procedure through the committee that recommended this, and then, hours before the city council meeting, we hear about these issues when this has been in front of us for at least a month. So I just feel like this is a last-minute shift. The project was reviewed and approved by the committee that oversees this entire process. They went through the proper channels, they got approvals, they got recommendations, and I just feel like it's pretty demoralizing that they went through all this work and then to go against the committee's recommendation and to negate that there is a compromise that can be found without having to tear up anything. I believe that, a lot of stakeholders have been engaged through this, and I just don't think that this is the way to do it. Just, no.
Thank you. You raise a very good point about the approval process. I will simply add that the Greenville Playground application was fully vetted as well by the same committee.
And it wasn't recommended for
Not fully funded, no. They partially funded it. It's a choice, that's all. Is there further comment on the amendment? Yes, Alderman Gould.
I'm going to be supporting, as I seconded the amendment to this. We don't have a plan yet. So if we do the first basketball court, and then we come up with a plan for what we're going to do to help Taft Volunteer Fire Department come up with parking needs, rather than putting in two basketball courts, and then, as it's been mentioned, that we rip one of them out, have to pay back through HUD $45,000. We haven't vetted a second area. While there may be land available to put the second court in, we haven't vetted it. We don't know what's under there. Is there ledge under there? Is there water under there? That needs to be vetted. We need to have a plan. So I think getting them, the Taftville community, one good, solid basketball court for them to use, while we figure out what's best for the Taftville Volunteer Fire Department, and if we can help out Greenville, getting them the Howard Street playground almost completed, there's no reason that we can't come back next year through HUD and put in an application to get the second basketball court. It's not like, oh, if you don't get it this time, you're never getting it again. And until we have the plan that says, yes, this is the location, we vetted the location for the Taftville Fire Department, rather than lose this money, I think we should spend it on this program, fixing the Greenville playground on Howard Street, and then come back and look at the issue again at a later date on whether or not, or where we can put a second basketball court in Taftville.
Thank you. Is there further discussion? Alderwoman Philbrick, please.
A couple of things. I will echo Alderwoman Gould's statement. Once again, we have no plan. I just don't understand. We have no plan. I sat here and listened to you talk about the decrepit condition of the basketball courts, the playground equipment at the old Greenville School, the lack of parking at Taftville. So I'm going to be a little facetious here and hope you enjoy my sort of sarcastic. Where does Laurel Hill park when they have a fire? You want to talk about parking problems? Okay. The second thing is the equipment. Who does the equipment belong to? The short answer is that equipment belongs to the city of Norwich. And once again, I will make my argument and my case that the city of Norwich, for whatever reason, does not take care of what they have. So I am very hesitant to spend any more money. I want a plan. I want a plan for Taftville. I find it extremely hard to believe that 260 children from the Brookclonic School use the basketball court? Must get pretty damn crowded over there. So I will not be supporting the $95,000. I will be supporting the $45,000. But at some point in time, ladies and gentlemen and council members, I think we need to take a serious look at what the city of Norwich has, what we actually take care of, and what we let fall by the wayside.
Thank you. Is there further discussion? Yes, Alderman DeLucia.
I'm so happy to hear my colleagues talk about taking action when there's no plan in place, because there is absolutely no plan in place for the addition and the expansion of the parking lot at the Taftville Firehouse. That is going to be a much greater undertaking than any of the items that we're talking about tonight. I disagree to a slight degree with Alderman Nash in terms of public safety. We have heard from Chief Jenks that he has parking issues and what he would like to do. We have not taken this up as an agenda item under at Public Safety, I should say. Okay, so the Public Safety Committee has taken no position on this. We've merely listened to the chief describe what his issues are and what his proposed remedies are. That's as far as that committee has weighed in on this issue. However, the fact remains that we heard that that project could be as much as $500,000, and it's a question mark simply because of the fact that we don't know what's in the ground. All right, there's rumor that there's a stream, an ancient stream underneath that property somewhere, and nobody knows where it is. So the idea that we're going to shift $45,000 and this is going to magically solve the parking problem at the Taffel Volunteer Firehouse, which is a problem, I'm not debating that, okay, but it's not going to get solved over $45,000. What I am saying, however, is that with no plan, no study in place about that parking, we should not be reserving and reallocating money to make room for that project when that project could be 5 years down the road. And in terms of money being down the road, I'll say one more thing. The fact that we got a CDBG grant in Taftville this year, okay, was lucky at best. Taftville is growing exponentially. The development is going. The development that is going on in Taftville is more than likely going to preclude Taftville from being eligible for CDBG grants in the future. So, the idea that we'll do it later when some more money comes in, later may not arrive. However, the most telling, I should say, the most on-point thing I can say on this issue is that the Director of Norwich Human Services, who oversees the Rec Department, and the Director of the Rec Department have both said that for the $90,000, they can establish 2 basketball courts in that area, and at the same time, if they have to, if we ask them to, relinquish the former tennis court to provide the room for the parking that Taftville is looking for. So for the $90,000 that are here, they're saying they can make it work. We should let them make it work. We ask our staff to advise us. Well, let's take their advice. Let's take their recommendation at its face value. Let's not second guess the professionals that do the work. I know that Cheryl Hansen went down there and looked at it. I know that she had conversations with Chief Jenks. So there is more of a plan in place about these 2 basketball courts than any parking issue that has come up before public safety or before this council. So I think that the amendment is well intended, but unnecessary and also to a degree inappropriate. Because we would be ending up with 2 basketball courts in Taftville for a total of $90,000 based on this recommendation, and significant improvements to the Greenville playground for the $76,400 that they've been allocated. I think that does, and we get some additional space for parking at the Taftville Firehouse. It's a win across the board. Why are we monkeying with this? I yield the floor.
Thank you. Is there further discussion?
Can't, I've already spoken.
Alderwoman Gould?
Okay. So, to go back to this, if we put $45,000 into the old tennis court, and then we find out that we need the space for the Taftville Fire Department's parking, we have to pay back $45,000. In addition to now still doing the parking lot. The second spot, while it may have been viewed and looked over, it has not been vetted as to whether or not we can put a second basketball court there. And while I appreciate the hard work of the members of the advisory committee, they may not be aware of the issue with the Taftville Volunteer Fire Department's restricted parking. And while, yes, we may not be able to get $45,000 next year for the Taftville basketball courts, I don't want to spend the money and then find out, well, we screwed up, and now we've got to pay it back because there isn't a plan. We haven't fully vetted all of this. So let's get them one solid, good-looking basketball court. They can still play on the old tennis court until we figure out where we're going to put TAFL's volunteer fire department's parking. We haven't vetted a second location to move it closer to the playground. And we'll get Greenville almost whole, and then we'll take another bite of the apple, or we could put it into next year's capital budget for the $45,000 for the TAFL basketball courts, into money that we must spend out of the capital improvement account. It could be a win-win for everybody. Greenville gets it, TAFL gets it, we've got a spot for the parking lot for TAFL, but until we have a plan, I cannot see spending $45,000 to put a second basketball court in to a spot where we may need to rip it out again to put in a parking lot.
Thank you. Alderwoman Burnham?
Yeah, I just find it just a little mind-boggling that we let one of our properties deteriorate, taking opportunities away from an ever-growing youth over there. And not only that, this is a revenue opportunity in that the rec department has grown a lot. They're hosting a lot of tournaments, people that come into our town, go to our restaurants. You know, this is an economic development strategy, and to just completely negate that for and just let this opportunity go by us, you know, for maybe a parking lot that might happen in 2, 3, 4, 5 years, and we're going to let another property deteriorate. I'm happy to hear you say that that next year in capital it'll be on there. So that's great if this doesn't come to fruition. I just think, again, here we are. The priorities of this council are just so misguided.
Thank you. Is there further discussion? I would only add briefly, one, we know that there was a school once in Greenville in this location. The school was closed. The Board of Ed made that decision a number of years ago for financial concerns. That playground is used by children, and it's not safe. And this issue was fully vetted by the advisory committee, just like all the others are. And we're only actually talking about helping potentially 3 different areas, 2 in TAFL, 1 in Greenville with this amendment, if it passes. And that's all we're voting on. We're not voting on citing a parking lot at all. And we don't know any hidden costs in the ground. Someone said you could move parking further down if the 2 courts were put in. Well, that means you're putting parking where the playground is, and that's not the whole purpose of that, green space. So I will be supporting this amendment. Thank you. Seeing none, all those in favor of the amendment? Opposed? Motion passes 4-3. The resolution as amended. Are there further amendments? Are there further amendments or points of discussion on the program itself? Seeing none, then all those in favor of the resolution as amended? Opposed? The motion passes 4-3. 2, please.
Relative to participation in the cost-sharing program with the City of Norwich to construct concrete sidewalks.
Motion, please, to bring it forward. Alderwoman Gould, second by Pro Tem Nash. Is there discussion? Yes, Alderwoman Filbert.
It's my favorite topic of the year is the sidewalk program. I've participated in it. Although I really enjoy my sidewalks, I think it's an insult to the citizens of Norwich, where we pay such exorbitantly high taxes that we also have to pay, well, some of us pay for our sidewalks. It's a very unusual system. I was helping my daughter fill out her paperwork the other day because she needs sidewalks. And one sentence caught my eye that says that and I'm paraphrasing here, so you sign up and you pay your $7,000 for your sidewalks the people that live at 167 Broadway. There's a sentence in the contract that says, if at a future date the city decides to put sidewalks in your neighborhood, the homeowner will not be reimbursed. So I just think it's the sidewalk in front of my house. If it snows, I have to clear it in 24 hours. Who does the sidewalk belong to? Does it belong to me? Does it belong to the city? Does it, and the other, this is a question that I think, again, when we talk about a plan, it's a four-letter word in the city of Norwich. Where is the plan for the sidewalks so that I have 40 feet of concrete with granite curbing and my neighbor has no sidewalk at all, they just have grass, and my neighbor on the other side has tar, and my neighbor down the road has fieldstone? There's no continuity, there's no plan. If the intention is to eventually sidewalk the whole city, then in my opinion, we should have a plan that says, okay, just like the roads, in 2020, we're going to put sidewalks from Alice Street to Market Street, and they're all going to be the same. But for some reason, I've never lived in a municipality before where I had to pay for my own sidewalks.
Thank you. There further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? It's unanimous, vote 7-0.
Number 3, relative to a reappointment of a regular member to the Commission on City Plan.
A motion, please bring it forward. Alderwoman Gould, is there a second? Alderman Nash, is there a discussion? Yes, Alderwoman Gould.
I would just like to thank Attorney Lehan for being willing to give his time once again to serve on the Commission on the City Plan.
Thank you. Is there further discussion? Alderman DeLucia.
I concur with my colleague.
Thank you. Brief. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? It's unanimous. Vote is 7-0.
Number 4, relative to a reappointment of an alternate member of the Inland Wetlands, Watercourses, and Conservation Commission.
A motion, please. Pro Tem Nash, second Alderwoman Gould. Is there discussion?
I stopped raising my hand.
For the record, it is P. Michael Lehan. Again, his service on the Commission on City Plan provides for need to be also serve on the Inland Wetlands Conservation Commission as well. And I would only add that we are very appreciative for all his years of service to the city. All those in favor? Unanimous. Vote is 7-0.
Number 5, relative to reappointments of regular members to the Commission for Persons with Disabilities.
A motion, please. Alderwoman Gould, second Pro Tem Nash. Is there discussion? Alderwoman Gould.
I want to thank Kevin Sathani and Alana Sherman for once again volunteering to serve on this very important commission. I think their work that they do is just tremendous. And
Thank you. Is there further discussion? Alderman DeLucia.
Again, I concur with my colleague, and these two interviews, it just made you smile to hear the commitment that this entire commission has to the persons with disabilities in this community.
Thank you. Is there further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? That's unanimous. Vote 7-0.
Number 6, relative to reappointments of regular members to the Personnel and Pension Board.
Motion, please. Pro Tem Nash, second by Alderwoman Gould. Is there discussion? Yes, Alderwoman Gould.
Okay, for the third time, a very important reappointment. The Personnel and Pension Board, as you know, watches over the finances of some of the finances of the city and our retirement accounts, and I appreciate Paul Schroeder and John being willing willing to serve again, and I thank them.
Thank you. Is there further discussion? Alderman Nash?
I'd just like to throw my 2 cents in. Those two individuals have decades of experience with the pension board. I know them both personally, and we couldn't be in better hands with those two individuals and the knowledge they bring to this pension board.
Thank you. Is there further discussion? Alderman DeLucia?
Again, I concur with my colleagues on these two gentlemen and their reappointment, and again, thank the entire Personnel and Pension Board, because that is a very healthy pension fund, and that is a testimony to their commitment, to the importance of their job, to the comptroller, and to the city manager as well, that our employees know that their pension fund is solid and healthy and well-managed. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd also add to that our city treasurer.
As well, yes.
Thank you. Is there further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? It's unanimous. 7-0. Vote.
Number 7, relative to holding the Norwich Noontime Rotary Celebrate Diversity event at the Howard T. Brown Park on Monday, September 16, 2019.
A motion, please. Pro Tem Nash, second. Alderwoman Gould, is there discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? It's unanimous, vote 7-0.
Number 8, relative to the disposition of property at 18 Falls Avenue.
Yes, I ask for a motion to refer this to the Commission on the City Plan. Alderwoman Gould, is there a second? Pro Tem Nash, is there discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Thank you. Oh, yeah. With permission of the council, could we go back to that motion and amend it so that it also is referred to the Harbor Commission? So can I have a motion to reconsider?
I'll make a motion to reconsider.
Second, the motion
Second,
to reconsider.
okay. Any discussion on the motion to reconsider? Seeing none, all those in favor? It's unanimous. The matter is before us again. I entertain a motion to amend it that the referral include the Harbor Commission. Nash, Gould, you guys are quick. Is there a discussion on the motion to amend? Seeing none, all those in favor? It's unanimous. Again, on the Resolution 8 referral to CCP and Harbor Commission, all those in favor? Unanimous. The August, yeah, it'll be coming back August 5th for the. Oh. Okay. We are going to accept the motion that this be scheduled for August 5th to return to council. That will allow the city clerk to set the proper notices that are required. Could I have that motion, please? Nash and Gould, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Thank you. It's unanimous.
New business ordinances, number 1, an ordinance appropriating $5 million for the City of Norwich Infrastructure Improvement Program 2019 and authorizing the issuance of $5 million bonds of the city to meet said appropriation, and pending the issuance thereof, the making of temporary borrowing for such purpose.
Thank you. I entertain a motion to waive the full reading and text and schedule this public hearing, which would be held August 5th. And in that same motion is being referred tonight to the Commission on the City Plan per our requirements. Second reading is August 5th. It's all one motion. Gould and Nash, any discussion? Yes, Alderman Browning.
Given the, let's say the sticker shock our taxpayers are feeling, and given the size of it, it's $5 million, I think it would be very helpful for the City Works, the Director of City Works, and the City Manager to come up with some sort of prospectus to explain what this money is actually going to be used for. If it's going to be used for repaving roads across the city, just simply say so. But if there is some intention to work on other projects such as wharves, which are mentioned in the language, it would be useful to know. And I think the taxpayers, that would give the taxpayers a lot more a better feeling towards it in terms of transparency.
Thank you. I think that's a great idea. Thank you. Is there any further discussion on this? Again, this is scheduling it for the second read and the public hearing August 5th. It's really not in front of us, but that's a great recommendation. All those in favor? That's unanimous, 7-0.
Motion to adjourn?
Second?
All those in favor of adjournment? We are adjourned. Thank you. Vote is 7-0 as well.